Hey, got to add myself to the stage. G'day, guys. How are we? Sorry, a little bit late. Yeah, what can I say? It's not. There's just not enough time in the day to get everything done. So I have, slapped as something together as quick as I can. I want to thank everybody who's been sending me shit because I haven't actually had much time to look into anything this week. It's been so full on. A lot of very long hours. I'm still loading footage in and whatnot. Um, delete that one. Delete that one. All right. So, all right. G'day, Jake, by the way. Seeing you were there nice and early going, is it time for sip shit? Hey, mate, you don't need to wait for me. You can get stuck into it anytime yourself. I'm just, it's Sunday. I'm on the water myself. I will, you know, no doubt be busy tomorrow and every other day as usual. Um, sorry, just going to add in this all the footage that I've been desperately smashing together to get ready. And when I looked at the time, I'm like, oh my God, poor people are going to be waiting for me. I've got to get this shit going. All right, now I'm going to all those ones, unselect those ones, and in we go. So I haven't even got memes this week. I haven't even looked at social media. Um, I just haven't had the time, I've definitely been very dependent. Tracy sent me a lot of great stuff, so we're gonna have a look at that as it loads in. Jake sent me some things as well, which was really good, and Janice, of course. Wow, Janice, that is so much stuff that you've sent. I have not even had a chance to look at all the stuff that you've actually sent through, but I've grabbed a couple of things that you sent. Yeah, wow. Maybe we might try and filter some of that stuff, Janice? Just like huge long videos. If you're going to send a long video, just go, hey, time index this point, this point, and this point. Very relevant. It helps when I'm trying to smash things together. Thanks to Tracy who did do that. She found a couple of long ones and gone, look, just go straight to this time index. That's the bit you want. I'm like, beautiful. That's what I needed. So thank you very much for that. We got a lot of shit's been happening, especially here in Townsville, as the still currently sitting mayor has been absolutely hammered by the lamestream media and calls from people in the Labor Party of all people for him to be removed. Struth, you don't want to set a president like that, guys, because seriously, we could remove the entire friggin' Labor Party because you are all full of shit. We've got some amazing, stuff that's been sent through. I mean, Struth, Elbow couldn't keep it, Elbow couldn't lie straight in bed. He's just absolutely unreal. What a pack of absolute useless liars is the Labor Party, and they want to get stuck into him. He's the pot calling the kettle black, But hey, look, if we have to sacrifice one mayor to get rid of the entire Labor Party, I'm for it. It's sad. Sorry, Troy, but if it gets the job done, getting rid of these crooks, I'm all for it. There's Jake's comment, sitting there waiting patiently. Sorry, mate. G'day, Valerie. How you going? Victoria, what's going on? Adrian, all the way from up there, far north Queensland again. Is it still raining there? Like I've been Cairns 4 times this week, and I swear it rained every time. Especially there on the Friday, it was a bit rough. Let's see the precedent. Cool. Yeah. If one goes down, they should all go down. G'day, Sophia. How are you? I think Fiona, you feel the same Fiona I'm thinking of. You sent me something as well that we're going to look at as well. G'day, Jessens, I'm guessing is how I say that. Alrighty then, so let's have a look. What do we got here? What have I loaded in? Still got stuff loading in. So, while there's all these, what do we got here? What's the point of elbow? Oh man, the bloody titles don't come in. So we might just have a look at some of this stuff over here while I'm waiting for that to come in because it's going to have to be ordered and sorted out. Apparently, some of these are too big. We'll have to deal with it as we go. So while we may as well start with poor Troy, hey, he's getting hammered. So have a look at some of the things that we've got going there. Which one's that one? Sorry, I should have labeled these a little bit better. Let's have a look at what we got here, because these I keep forgetting that the titles are too friggin' short in this software here, and I can't extend that bit, which that sucks. Sorry, bear with me, guys. Let's yeah, as you can tell, not prepared today. Just not enough time in my busy life to get things done. And, you know, I was really selfish yesterday. I went and spent time with my family for a change. You know, probably, you know, they have to tune into these shows to see me as well. So let's have a look. What do we got here? The first one I'm having a look at today: Australian infected blood victims call for Royal Commission in wake of damning UK inquiry findings. So that should be good to see. I think we might have done a little bit on this last week. I can't remember. As a Sydney schoolboy in the 1980s, Charles Mackenzie was given donated blood as a part of his treatment for a rare blood disorder. The teenager and his family had no idea that the blood came from an ex-pensioner who used heroin, speed, and cocaine. Mackenzie, who is now aged in his 50s, became one of thousands of Australians infected with hepatitis C through a blood donor, which were infected with the HIV virus. Many of the victims had haemophilia, a blood clotting disorder, and relied on regular blood donations. For decades, Mackenzie, who runs the advocacy group Infected Blood Australia, has battled for justice on behalf of Australians who were given transfusions of diseased blood between the 1970s and early 1990s. 20 years that was going on for. Wow. Now the newly released findings of damning, and I like the fact they didn't mention how much, you know, especially mainstream media and things, you know, calling him everything under the sun. He's, you know, here's another example of a prophet, you know, because he was a conspiracy theorist, but now it turns out he was right. Oh my Lord, you know, so what point do you become, you know, some kind of a messiah when your conspiracy theories keep coming true? I don't know, you know, but he's definitely worked hard to expose these things. Great work, mate, and it's good to see that it's finally paid off for you. In an apology to victims, British PM Rishi Sunak said the inquiry's final report released on Monday should shake our nation to its core. And what about here in Australia? You know, this has opened up the biggest scandals that's been buried for some people for 50 years, and from Australia's standpoint, we're the worst in the world. Mackenzie said, "We need to focus on that. No one was worse than Australia when it came to tainted blood." Despite publicly leading campaigns for Australian tainted blood victims for decades, Mackenzie only shared his personal story for the first time when he testified at the UK inquiry in 2020. "Before I die and I'm an ill man, I want to know that I gave this every chance," he said. "So if it meant me sacrificing my rights and privacy, then I was happy to do this for Australia." Well, good job, buddy. There's quite an extensive article here. Feel free to get through and have a read of that. It's pretty shocking stuff, really. Very shocking stuff that this has happened. And I mean, now we've got this whole vaccine thing going on as well. Truth. How many dodgy things has our government been up to? But hey, Troy didn't quite get his military record right. You know, that's what's really important at the moment. You know, I mean, let's have a look at what Channel 7
The
had to say.
Mayor stayed out of the spotlight today after sharing his defence service number with the public earlier this week, prompting community speculation. A local paper claims they've seen a document revealing Troy Thompson served with the reserves for 2.5 years, not 5, as he stated in a podcast interview during his election campaign.
You know, I spent 5 years in the military in Perth. So I was in Signals, in Swanbourne, or Karrakatta, Fremantle, and SAS Swanbourne.
Troy Thompson is being investigated by Queensland's Council Integrity Watchdog, the Office of the Independent Assessor, who says it cannot comment further at this time.
Well, if it's not telling the truth to people, That's not great at all.
And I just can't imagine you'd be that stupid to concoct that kind of a story, because it's so easy to trace those records. They're not something you can hide if you pretend that you were and you weren't.
Townsville City Council says Mr Thompson is focused on working for the community. The Mayor has already stated he won't be addressing the media about the matter.
Well, there you go. That was last week. Now we've got this week.
He ran on a platform of accountability and transparency, but Townsville's newly elected mayor now concedes he may have stretched the truth.
I've had multiple concussions, 100 plus, and I suffer from epilepsy. That's not an excuse, but what it says is you're going to forget things from time to time.
Things like his military service, not 5 years attached to 3 different units and alongside the SAS, more like 3 years in the reserves, largely as a cook.
I apologise to all services as well as veterans and defence.
Of all of the places to lie about your military service, Townsville would have to be just about the worst.
He just should resign. I think he should step down. 100%.
He also claimed 2 tertiary degrees, but now admits he didn't finish them. And as for his business judgment, he was a director of a company which collapsed, owing $9 million.
It's hard to imagine how it's in Townsville's best interests for him to remain mayor.
This afternoon, other councillors agreed.
You are damaging this beautiful city. If you do not resign, we will move a motion at next week's council meeting calling for the Minister of Local Government to suspend you.
7 News has repeatedly reached out to Mr Thompson. Today he replied he won't be standing down as there are no grounds, saying he was elected to lead democratically, so it's business as usual. The mayor's service history has been referred to the Triple C. Laura Dimmick, 7 News.
So there you go. That's Channel 7's report lately. There was a video. This
Pledge number 7, reduce council debt. How do you do that? You need to trim it.
Wasn't it? So that was one of his pledges. Struth, where did it go? Could have sworn I had it here. Give me a second. I've got to find it. It's probably that crucial to this element because, he has made a video. It's probably quicker for me to go back to one of my sources. Sorry, guys. I thought I downloaded it and gotten it ready, but it turns out things are not as I thought they were. It's rushing. A bit warm in here. What in the hell? Don't tell me it's a reel. I thought it was an actual video. Hate reels. Why people use them? Stupid bloody thing. That's the one I'm looking for. Let's get that. Sadly, we failed. All right, so maybe we'll just try and play it from there. That might be the way to deal with this. Okay, so we've got this thing here. Let me know if you can hear this, guys. I can't.
So to say a big thank you to my good afternoon, Councillor Troy Thompson, Mayor of Townsville. I just wanted to say a big thank you to my whole community. Those people have reached out, they've rung, they've texted. Incredible support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's tough on mental health, but at the same time, we're not going anywhere. This town, I thought, wasn't ALP, but it's been very, very clear that it is being dominated by, and you can see that in the media, and you can see it in council meetings that are happening at the moment. You can see the peacocking happening in those council meetings from those ALP members. So as much as I'd like to say there's no politics in local government, there still is, and that's what we've got to remove. That's what I was voted in on. So I'll stick firm on that. I can't talk about obviously matters because we're under Triple C investigation. So all those reporters that are sitting at the driveway and at my house and following me around and taking photos and texts and phone calls, thank you for all the interest. But you know what? I can't talk about it because it is a Triple C matter, and you know that, and you know I love to talk. So, but I can't. So I won't. I will. Obviously it was referred to by the minister to the Triple C. That's a concern. I'd like to dig a little bit deeper on that and understand which of the local councillors who are ALP members have had those conversations. And who has the minister spoken to out of the ALP local councillor group? Because it's got some momentum, and I've got to ask where those questions are coming from and the information. Anyway, guys, have a great Saturday, and we'll talk really soon.
So that's Troy's response. And, you know, look, at the end of the day, we know the Labor Party are about as crooked as they come, you know. So, you know, here's, you know, the liar himself, you know, friggin' here, this friggin' cockknocker here, who on the first day of Parliament was busted lying. Well done, dickhead. Well done. Why would you put your hat in this arena when you are a bold-faced liar yourself, you know? Deserves a mayor who hasn't lied to them. What about a state state premier? Can we have a Queensland state premier that didn't lie on his first day in Parliament? So, man, pot calling the kettle black, you dirty little dog. You know, it's just amazing that these idiots can come out and say the things that they're saying, you know. We're also going to have another report later, guys, at 5:30. I've got another bloke who is going to weigh in on this and point out something about another councillor who may have misled the public as well. One of the ones that's on the Troy Thompson lynch mob. So we're going to have a chat about that. That should be interesting. So stay tuned a bit later as we uncover more of the lies of politicians. You know, more calls for Townsville. You know, they're just hammering him from every point of view. News.com is doing it. You know, Queensland Premier Stephen Miles, the liar himself, you know, calling for the resignation. Wow, good on you. Well done. Pot calling the kettle black, Nobby. You know, Channel 9's onto it as well. I think we've got their yeah, very good, very true. There, very true, courage. You know, lots of comments coming in. Well, that's a good comment. I like the empty comments. Best noise cancelling earbuds. I doubt it. Why? Like why? Richo, how are you? Lying is the same as stealing. Maybe like most in power, they are leveraged. Yeah, well, there's a bit of leverage going on in council from what I'm hearing too. But we'll more on that later. So I think we can sort of move on there. So while I get a few things in order, let's have a look at one of the things that Tracy sent me here about a pair of bozos.
Let's go to Canberra now and catch up with One Nation founder and leader Pauline Hanson, actually joining us from Queensland. Of course, the Senate not sitting this week. Thanks for joining us, Pauline. The government now, Andrew Giles and the Prime Minister saying that they're going to do a new Directive number 99. Effectively, that was wrong. That was a mistake they made last year because they got to rewrite it. Well, can we trust them to write it properly this time? Are you comforted at all by this concession from the government?
Not at all. I think they're a pair of bozos. They really are, the way they've handled this. And when I said in the meeting at the end of last year with regards to Giles and handling the detainees, I was of the confidence that they could actually then, a reoffender who was released from the detention centre could be actually put back behind bars again in a detention centre, but that wasn't the case. So we were lied to. It was not my understanding. I can't believe what they've done. Now they're blaming the AAT. You're going to give them a direction, ministerial direction, which he's already got. It comes down to the minister how to deal with this. And of those 153 detainees that were released, Chris, my understanding 76 have actually ankle bracelets on. Of the 28 that have reoffended, we don't know whether they had ankle bracelets on. That was my understanding. They would all be wearing ankle bracelets, but it wasn't the case. They've lied to us time and time again. And if you look at the record of both of these men, You know, they don't want to lock up detainees. They have no regard for the Australian people and their safety. They have no regard for the security of this nation, because they put out a clear message to the people smugglers: put them on boats, or those people can come in by plane. We've got more coming in by plane who are going to claim asylum seeking in this country. We're in a hell of a mess.
We are in a hell of a mess, and it's incredible to watch the government, the minister in particular, blaming everybody else. Now, they blame the department. Well, 2 points on that is they got rid of the department head, Mike Pizzullo, who knew what he was doing, and they thought he was too political, so they had that inquiry and got rid of him. So they got their own person there heading it. Plus, they're supposed to run the department. They're supposed to demand the sort of performance that they should get. And secondly, they blame the AAT. Now, here, the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, again, they've shaken that organisation up dramatically. They've fobbed a lot of people off, put their own people on there. In fact, they're going to reconfigure it as a new organisation. So that's their people delivering those outcomes as well. And again, in that case, it's up to the minister to be vigilant about what's going on, what's being upheld, what's being overturned, and make sure he acts before it turns up in the newspapers, on the TV news. That's the only time he acts, is when these horrible cases turn up in the media.
He's not even acting, and I know personally Mike Pizzullo, and he was a no-nonsense, spot-on guy, and this was the different politics of how Mike would handle it to what Giles or the Prime Minister would handle it. That's why he had to go. So they're both soft, they're bleeding bloody hearts, and not good for the country. So people have to realise this. It's where your vote goes, who you're voting as the next government. If you return this pair, well, I tell you what, along with the rest of them, we're going to be worse off now in the future down the track unless we do something about it.
Well, he's got the minister now having to rewrite, effectively scrap his directive and come up with a new one. Surely that is enough in its own right, because this was his directive. Giles brought this directive in. Surely he has to go.
He has to go. Everyone keeps calling for it, but Albanese is protecting him. So it's his mate. He's protecting him because they think alike, Chris. If someone doesn't do the cut, it's with me, okay? So I had a couple of my members that didn't cut mustard with me and they didn't do the job. So I actually got rid of them. That's what it's about. Politics is about, you've got to have people there who know how to solve a problem. They can't solve problems. And if you don't want to get rid of someone, that means you're on the same page. And that's what tells me. They both think alike. Albanese won't get rid of Giles because Giles is thinking exactly the same way as Albanese. Albanese is the most pathetic, gutless Prime Minister I have ever known. And I actually am so angry with him in the leadership role of this nation that I cringe when I see him. I cringe when I hear their policies. I cringe for the future of this nation. And especially last night, watching that show with Josh Frydenberg, I cringed with his comments that shows he's a gutless wonder. He shows no compassion for what's happening in this country. He was pathetic to listen to. Julia Gillard showed more leadership in her comments than what he's got in his bloody thumb, in his little finger. And even Peter Dutton did. It shows me again. He is sitting on barbed wire fence. He's trying to appease so many people here, but also sticking up for his own values of what he stands for himself. It comes across to me so clearly.
There you go. There you go. Excuse me. So there's a little bit on this kind of stuff.
A savage attack near Geelong has put more heat on the Albanese government over the release of violent criminals. 7 News can reveal the man responsible for the attack had won his fight to have his visa reinstated, even as the Immigration Minister fights for his job.
Fighting back over visa decisions of the past.
There's hundreds of them. Hundreds of them.
Accusing opposition leader Peter Dutton of overseeing more visa reversals than Immigration Minister Andrew Giles.
Sat there wallowing in his hypocrisy, Mr. Speaker.
As another decision of the President emerges, 7 News can reveal that as Mr Giles was defending himself yesterday, yet another violent foreign criminal's visa was being reinstated by the Administrative Appeals Tribunal in Melbourne. This time Indian-born Gurpreet Singh, on parole after serving 6 years for what the judge called a ferocious and terrifying bashing in Geelong, leaving his victim close to death. The AAT overturning the decision to pull his visa, finding, under Mr Giles' Direction 99, Singh's ties to Australia weighed strongly in his favour, a direction the government will now reverse as it tries to hang on to Mr Giles.
And the only effective way of ensuring that tribunal members are making better decisions is to issue a new revised direction, which the Minister will be doing.
The government playing hardball, releasing details to the media of Peter Dutton's time as Minister, then quoting them to attack him.
And I am deeply concerned by reports just in that refer to 102 convicted sex offenders released into the community when the Leader of the Opposition was responsible. And 64 child sex offenders.
The Prime Minister says he retains confidence in his minister.
I do, Mr Speaker.
For now. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Wow, Busted still doing stuff behind the scenes here. Caught again. All right, so that was that. So we can move that out the road now. And we want to have a look at what's happening in the UK regarding these kind of things. So that's coming from the Travel Abroad Migration. So obviously they're not, they're more concerned with getting migrants in, I guess, is their point of view. So let's have a look at what their video is.
The first flight will leave in 10 to 12 weeks. This is one of the most complex operational endeavours the Home Office has carried out. But we are ready, plans are in place, and these flights will go come what may. No foreign court will stop us from getting flights off.
Every person who moved to the UK must be cautious because the government is now deploying police to apprehend those deemed illegal migrants. Following Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's announcement weeks ago, the first flight for deportation is imminent. It's important to consider what comes next. The deportation bill applies to both legal and illegal migrants, as confirmed by the Home Office in recent days. This indicates a decline in numbers, particularly among care workers. If your visa in the UK has expired, if you've been jobless since your care company's licence got revoked, or if you're an asylum seeker, this update is crucial for you. Stay tuned as we provide the latest on UK immigration. The government has begun arresting migrants for deportation. I'll provide detailed insights into these new updates, particularly focusing on whom the UK government is targeting in these recent arrests. But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel Travel Abroad Migration for daily updates on UK visas and immigration. Without any more delays, let's jump right into the video. British authorities have initiated a series of operations to detain migrants, gearing up for their deportation to Rwanda as part of Prime Minister Rashek's flagship immigration policy. The UK Home Office released a video on Wednesday depicting armed immigration officers handcuffing individuals at their homes and escorting them for deportation. In a statement, the UK government announced a series of nationwide operations preceding the first deportations set to commence in the next 9 to 11 weeks. Interior Minister James Cleverly emphasised that enforcement teams were diligently working to swiftly detain those without the right to be in the country, facilitating flight departures. Sunak, expected to call an election later this year, reiterated that the flagship immigration policy aims to discourage crossings of the English Channel. However, unions and human rights charities have expressed dismay at the ongoing wave of arrests. While some have managed to block transfers to removal centres, they report increasing difficulty in initiating legal actions. The campaign of mass arrests targets a specific group, as announced by the Home Office. This initial cohort comprises approximately 5,700 men and women who arrived in the UK without prior permission between January 2022 and June 2023. Individuals falling within this category have received a notice of intent, indicating that they are being considered for deportation on the first flight. However, recent revelations indicate that government data reveals a concerning trend. The Home Office has lost contact with thousands of potential deportees. Only 2,143 individuals have been located for detention thus far, leaving more than 3,500 unaccounted for. Some are believed to have fled across the Northern Irish border into Ireland, while others include individuals who have failed to attend mandatory appointments with UK authorities. Ministers have emphasised that enforcement teams will continue their efforts to locate them. Several migrants who did attempt compulsory appointments with UK authorities as part of their asylum applications this week have been arrested and are slated to be on the first deportation flight. The government has not disclosed precise figures for the number of arrests made since the operation commenced on Monday. Detentions have been reported across the UK, spanning England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, including cities like Bristol, Liverpool, Birmingham and Glasgow. Can legal action halt the deportations? The Conservative Party's plan to deport immigrants who entered the UK without permission has encountered over 2 years of legal hurdles and political disputes between the two houses of Parliament. In June 2022, the first flight intended to transport refugees to Rwanda was cancelled at the 11th hour by the European Court of Human Rights, ECHR. Last year, the UK Supreme Court ruled the deportation scheme unlawful, citing the government's inability to ensure the safety of migrants upon their arrival in Rwanda. On Wednesday, the Senior Civil Servants Union FDA submitted an application for a judicial review against the government's Rwanda plan. They argue that it places their members at risk of breaching international law if they comply with a minister's demands. Phaeton-B noted that appeals could also be lodged at the European Court of Human Rights. However, this process is time-consuming and unlikely to prevent someone from being relocated to Rwanda in the interim. It remains to be seen how this situation will unfold, particularly whether the bill will be cancelled by the European Court of Human Rights. As of now, the Prime Minister has announced that it cannot be ruled out by the court, implying that the bill stands for the time being. If your visa has expired in the UK, or if you've been jobless since your care company's licence was revoked, or if you're an asylum seeker, it's crucial to stay informed about these developments. We hope this information has been helpful to you.
Well, I think we get the point there. So yeah, very interesting stuff, eh? Well, I mean, if they haven't turned up doing things the right way, then shouldn't they be deported? No, what do you guys think? You know, now let's have a look at some of these comments. There's a clown show on. Yep, they definitely are. When we lose, exactly. Solution to government. The freedom movement need unity in forming a third political party by combining all independents and minor parties, including One Nation Palmer. These numbers equate to 64% of the electoral votes, as it removes the preferences from the two-party preferential system. Not a bad call. I mean, I as I understand it, you know, the whole preference voting thing, you choose your own preferences, you know. That's one of the things we outlined, Troy and I outlined in the video that's available on Facebook. You should be able to find it at Aussie Icon Productions Facebook page if you want to have a watch of how the preferential system works. I found it pretty informative. I enjoyed making that video because I learned how it worked myself. So, our government want misery and chaos. Why can't people see these evil clowns? What are they? In jail or hang them? This is our right. Good morning. How are we going? Sounds like the woman who did the information video about how the UK has changed. How they estimate excess deaths. Could be. You know, I mean, they all put on the same fake voice. You know, especially those in the mainstream sort of thing. You know, the way they speak, it's just so fake. You know, deportation theatre, the theatre of illusion, still playing. causing the problem, then pretending to fix it. Obviously, an important election point for the British. Yeah, I think it's actually, it seems to be the whole immigration thing is a huge issue across all the European and Western nations. It's especially the amount our government's bringing in is bloody ridiculous. 5,000 new homes over 4 years. Immigration 600,000 per annum. Do the maths. Immigration needs to stop until supply gets ahead of the demand. I am definitely in agreement with that. And I remember having this argument with dickhead reporters. One particular complete and utter cockknocker of a reporter too. Explaining that we don't have the resources, we don't have the infrastructure for this kind of mass immigration. It's nuts, but they're all the bleeding hearts, they don't quite get it. Those elected to do Australia's business. Of course, it's just easier to go, oh, interesting, and roll away as soon as all the facts came out and they couldn't support, come out with their own evidence. Pretty good for reporters, really, I thought. So yeah, the New York Times has reported on UK approves bill that would send asylum seekers to Rwanda. We know Trump's a big supporter of deportation, people who have come in illegally. Biden just seems to want to allow it to happen, and you notice that the trend with these far left parties, where they're all doing the same bloody thing across the world too. Britain's Conservative government finally won passage of its flagship immigration policy on Monday, enshrining a Rwanda deportation bill that human rights campaigners say is inhumane. Of course they do. And all these people who are like, oh, it's human rights, it's inhumane. Honestly, open up your house. Give these people a bedroom in your house. You want to help these people. Put your money where your mouth is where I sort of stand on this whole thing. You want to take in an asylum seeker. I wonder how long they would before they change their tune when they bring in some of these really damaged people. So well, it's your responsibility. You want to help them, you by all means, go for it. US they trying to lock info was Alex Jones. Oh, they go, yeah. I'm gonna start looking after Australians first. I'm inclined to agree. Yeah. It's not Great Britain anymore. It's great bureaucrats. And I think it's, again, same plague across all Western nations, isn't it? How else will the government form an army that will shoot true Aussies? That's a good question. That's, military recruitment numbers are down too, So, we're on the brink of World War III. Why would you want to freaking join? It's not like, the wars against those Arab nations, which were poorly equipped and whatnot. We're looking at World War III against Russia, who can actually fight back, and they're doing a good job of it so far. Actually, that was one of the things I wanted to bring in. I'll have to have a look at it. Actually, it was a video I seen earlier, and I haven't got around to it. But anyway, let's have a look. What's the next one? So, yeah. What was next? Oh, yes, the fire trucks. My God. This is a good one. Introducing Australia's first electric and low emissions fire support trucks. Wow. Can they put their own fires out when their bloody battery catches fire? Well done, dickheads. Oh, sorry, we can't put your burning house down out of, I know it's caught fire and all, but, says our fire truck, it caught fire on the way to the fire. That's what I predict, is going to come to pass from this, only 81 people liked it. So I'm just curious, what were the comments on this? Oh, I've got to actually log in. I didn't want to log in. That's the thing. So yeah, I'd be curious if people want to go suss out this one and go have a look at some of the comments on that. I reckon that'd be pretty funny. So where was I? Oh, that's right. I did that bit, didn't I? I did that bit. And yeah, cool. All right, I'm following along. So in other interesting news at the moment, I'm going to take notes. Other interesting things that have been happening here. We've got the 12 injured after Qatar Airways. Thanks, Mark, for sending me this one. Flight it hits mid-air turbulence over Turkey. All right, so it's interesting. We've got a lot of these turbulence issues, and so I had a little bit of a look, and I found this. Could climate change be behind the increase in air turbulence? Wow, that's a good one. I like that one. Well, let's have a look at the video, shall we?
Everything just went bang. It seemed like hell broke loose. I really thought that plane was going to fall in half. Lights were in the ceiling, came down, hitting people on the head. People who didn't have their seatbelts on were falling. And glasses, phones, everything was just flying through the air. I thought, we're not going to get out of this.
The Singapore Airlines flight was passing over the south of Myanmar when severe turbulence hit. A 73-year-old man died and more than 100 people were injured. Beverly Mayers was physically unscathed, but it wasn't until she was flying back to Australia 14 hours later that the ordeal sunk in.
And I'd slept for about 2 hours and I woke up absolutely bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop, and the whole lot went over again in my head, and that was happening every 2 hours. And every time we hit a little bit of turbulence on the plane, you could see the people who'd been on that plane pulling the seatbelts tight. And then when I've got home, that's all I was sleeping was 2 hours, and I'd wake up in the same condition, just crying and crying.
A week on, the 81-year-old says she's now settled in back home.
So I've been on the beach, I've been walking by the river, I've been out with my friends, and I think that's what's grounded me now. All the family came over and it was just group hugs and it was so good. I've got a 14-year-old grandson who, gangling, lovely boy, and he just kept hugging and hugging and saying, nothing happened to my dad. But he was just beautiful. Yeah, it was lovely.
Preliminary findings released by investigators overnight reveal the plane likely flew near a developing thunderstorm. This caused unexpected and rapid changes in acceleration, and many passengers were flung into the air and violently thrown back down again. The aircraft plunged 54 metres in less than 5 seconds. The incident forced the London to Singapore flight to make an emergency landing in Bangkok.
So this time of year it is the active monsoon period for that region of Asia and the Bay of Bengal. There was more thunderstorm activity there at that time than there was a few days earlier, for example.
Investigators have extracted the data from the plane's black box and suggest the airplane hit what's known as convective turbulence.
Two types we generally come across as pilots are clear air turbulence, and that's associated frequently with jet streams that occur near the poles at each end of the planet. Or the other form of turbulence we frequently come across is what pilots refer to as convective turbulence, and that will normally be associated with thunderstorms or other sorts of cloud activity.
Tony Lucas has been a pilot with Qantas for nearly 3 decades and is the president of the Australian and International Pilots Association.
So clear air turbulence won't ever show up on our weather radar as the technology stands at the moment, whereas convective turbulence we will be able to see on our weather radar and therefore make plans to try and avoid all of it, or at least the worst of it.
The investigation into what happened with the Singapore Airlines flight is ongoing. On Monday, there was another mid-air incident. A Qatar Airways flight from Doha to Dublin hit turbulence, injuring 12 people.
We're 10 kilometres in the air in an aluminium tube and in a dynamic environment. And so the best of forecasts are only able to give us an indication of what we might come across.
Some recent studies suggest climate change is making clear air turbulence more frequent and severe.
The changes in the global atmospheric winds lead to increases in the strength of the jet stream. And those increases in strength will lead to more likelihood of turbulence.
To manage it, pilots rely on weather forecasts and correspondence with other aircraft on their route to adjust their speed and altitude.
There's been a lot of concern that climate change is going to make air travel unsafe, and I would just say that our ability to avoid turbulence will probably increase at a faster rate than any changes in turbulence due to climate change.
The amount of air traffic around the world has increased significantly, and with a 3 or 4-fold increase in air traffic, of course we're going to have a 3 or 4-fold event of aeroplanes encountering turbulence.
Singapore Airlines will no longer serve hot drinks or meals when the seatbelt sign is on.
There are very few things.
I think I've had enough of the ABC's propaganda, so let's just blow that right out of the fucking water, shall we? here. So, according to this document, which is what was it called? A safety research report. I'll just what page? So this is the data we're going to look at, but I'll get right to the top. Preventing turbulence-related injury in air carrier operations conducted under Title 14. And this is the safety research report from the National Transport Safety Board in America. And we scroll down through all the words and all the funny stuff and all the shit that they're citing and all that sort of stuff. And we come down to this interesting little graph here, and I'll have to, point out, thanks to Redacted for pointing this out. I thought you guys would like to see it too, turbulence related and non-turbulence, accidents, where was it written here? So the number of turbulence related part 121 accidents varied between 4 and 18 accidents occurred each year. However, the period part 121 accidents that were turbulence related were generally the highest in the most recent decade, shown 2009 through to 2018, due to the decrease in non-turbulence related accidents. Figure 6 shows yearly trends in part 112 accident rates from 1989 through to 2018. After normalizing the data by the annual flight hours, there was no obvious trend over time for turbulence-related accidents during this period. Right, so there hasn't really been a great increase. You can see, along this line here that turbulence-related incidents, it's pretty consistent. So the idea that climate change is causing more turbulence has just been destroyed by the fact that there really hasn't been that much of an increase in turbulence. So well done, guys. Have another crack at that one. You friggin' idiots. The climate change narrative is just so friggin' retarded. They need just that one Yahoo there to tell you that climate change is a problem, and that's all the evidence they need. They don't actually look at the data. Well done, guys. Well done. And you guys are calling it. Yeah, I love that. Oh my God, the sky is falling. We're all doomed. Yes, definitely. Oh my God. So, all that propaganda, and the worst thing has come from the ABC. We've paid for that. They stole our money through excessive taxation, redistributed it as they see fit into a left-biased load of horse shit known as the ABC. Gotta love communism, don't you? Gotta love that socialist attitude, And was that friggin' idiot Aaron Harper on, our Labor drone in Thuringowa, and Tracy showed me he's got his glossy pamphlet getting out there showing you how he listens to the people of Thuringowa. So why do you run every time Tracy goes near you? I thought you were listening to the people, you liar. So there's another lie we have for the Labor Party right there. He's got all these lovely photos there showing you how the 3 or 4 people that would actually talk to him. He's taking his photo opportunity there. The probably family members. I mean, I don't know how the family can even look at him, to be honest, but that's another story. But yeah, he was put up a post saying how he's, look at Labor's giving you, all these things, and I'm just like, mate, you don't give anything. You steal our money from that taxation and redistribute it as you see fit. That is not giving. Idiot. There's always a mixture of truth and lies. Yeah. They've suffered turbulence for decades. What a load of shit to con the passengers that it's climate change. We can see where this is going to push the agenda, the agenda. Yep. Definitely. My gender is barbecue. Thank you. Every time they bang on climate change, there's always a report that debunk it. It's not hard. It's not hard. Like, their whole narrative is full of shit. It's the rabbits. It's all about the rabbits. That's them pesky rabbits. That's why they had to build the Great Wall of China, wasn't it? To keep the rabbits out. Yeah, that's what TV told me. So, anyway, let's move along here. So, plot twist. The international government negotiating body has officially admitted that they have failed to reach consensus on the text of the proposed pandemic agreement. That's good news for now. Awesome. I like this. That's a good symbol there. It's, we should put that on a t-shirt. Outcome of the international negotiation body, the draft. So, yeah, by decision, the Health Assembly and its second special session decided inter alia to establish an international body of the member states. Did not reach a consensus on the text. That's the most important thing. So it looks like we're safe for now. The WHO pandemic agreement, the draft of which, actually, didn't I get an email about that? Hang on, give me a second. I think I was seeing something in there from one of our good senators. Why is this not signed in? That's annoying. Give me a second. Actually, you know what? While I'm having a look at that, let's just quickly bang up another video, eh? So where were we? Here's a good one while I get a little bit prepared.
Okay, today is the second anniversary of the election of the Albanese Labor government, and there's one overarching question hanging over this country. What is the point of Anthony Albanese as Prime Minister of Australia? What is the point of Albo? Let me start with the issue I just spoke about, the Middle East war, probably the gravest international flashpoint in the world right now, an area where there are stark choices for global security, for sovereign and democratic rights, for basic human rights, and for the defeat of Islamist extremist terrorism. These choices about national interests and national values are so stark that even the US president, yes, even sleepy Joe Biden, found a few words of moral clarity.
Let me be clear. We reject the ICC's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders. Whatever these warrants may imply, there is no equivalence between Israel and Hamas. Contrary to allegations against Israel made by the International Court of Justice, what's happening is not genocide. We reject that. We will always stand with Israel.
Well said, Mr. President. So what about our Prime Minister? What point would Albo make on such a fundamental issue?
US President Joe Biden says seeking the arrest warrants of Israeli leaders is outrageous. Do you agree with him?
Well, I don't comment on court processes in Australia, let alone court processes globally, of which Australia is not a party.
Do you agree with Joe Biden's comments? And is it
I just answered the same question. Look, I don't comment on court proceedings.
What's the point? What's the point of Albo? He's got nothing to say. This claptrap about not commenting on court cases is pathetic. It's nonsense. It's just an excuse to say nothing. Either Albo doesn't know the facts, doesn't know what he wants to say, or he doesn't have the backbone to stand up for Australia's values. Is he too scared to speak the truth? Worried about an electoral backlash from the feral left of his own party, or from the Greens, or the university activists, or from Muslim communities in crucial seats? This is a terrible indictment on Albo, but it's also a reflection on Australia. This is the lily-livered view of the world that Australia now projects. But it gets worse, because another Labor minister isn't so shy. Chris Bowen took a break from destroying our electricity grid today to undermine our global standing, offering support not for Israel, but for the false equivalence from the ICC.
Well, I respect the International Criminal Court and I respect the work they do, and international law must be respected. International law, of course, was not respected by Hamas. Israel must respect international law. We respect the work of the International Criminal Court. International law must always be observed, and nobody gets a free pass from that.
Just terrible, turning their backs on decency, on liberty and on our allies in favour of anti-Israel bile from the UN crowd. Still, getting back to Albo, remember, this is the bloke who promised to stand up and be accountable for his actions.
If I'm Prime Minister, I'll accept responsibility each and every day. Okay. I'll work hard and I'll accept responsibility, not always seek to blame someone else.
That was a fine sentiment, wasn't it? But it's turned into a major broken promise, because Albanese has turned blaming others and shirking responsibility into an art form. Remember what he said about immigration detainees out on bail and allegedly bashing people?
It's inappropriate to comment further, given it's in the middle of the investigation by WA Police. Of course, state bail schemes are run by the states by definition as well. But given the matter is under investigation before police and the courts, it's inappropriate to comment further.
Yeah, Albo loves a court case, gives him an excuse to try to say nothing. Remember what he said about monitoring these criminal immigration detainees after they'd been freed.
The Community Protection Board is, of course, a board that's independent of politicians. It's not appropriate for me to comment on individual cases.
They make their decisions independent. Well, they make the decisions independent. One of the things that we have in this country is a separation there.
Another hand pass. Apparently the Prime Minister is in charge of nothing. Take GST allocations to the states.
Well, the Commonwealth Grants Commission operates at arm's length from the government. It's not something that my government has direct involvement in.
Always someone there, isn't there, to pass the buck on to or to blame? Like for the interest rate rises that he promised to ease?
The Reserve Bank of Australia are an independent body and the government doesn't direct them on what to do.
But of course, even for the Indigenous voice, a proposal worked up over 2 decades that only lasted a few months in his hands.
This is not my proposal, this is the Australian people's proposal.
Nothing sticks with this guy. He accepts no responsibility for anything, even on electricity prices, and his promise to lower them, the blame was sheeted elsewhere.
We know that there's been an impact of global energy prices. We live in a global community.
The Ukraine war started.
It goes on and on, doesn't it? Take border protection and the arrival of asylum seeker boats. Yet again, Albo just looks for excuses not to say or do anything.
I've been travelling in the car, so I'm not. I haven't been advised about that.
This is not just a pattern anymore. This is the overarching characteristic of this Prime Minister. Albo is always keen to buck pass. He's always keen to blame others. He's always telling us that it's someone else's job or not his responsibility. And far too often he either chooses not to speak at all or he gives us a word salad that means nothing anyway. And this is most certainly not what he promised.
I won't blame someone else. I'll accept responsibility. That's what leaders do. The Prime Minister never bothers to live up to his job title. A Prime Minister who never takes responsibility and only ever looks to blame others. Is there any issue in which Scott Morrison doesn't blame someone else, in which he doesn't take responsibility?
So surely all this then adds up to another broken promise from Anthony Albanese. If he doesn't want to say anything, doesn't want to do anything, doesn't want to accept responsibility for anything, and doesn't want to impose himself on any issues, then what is the point of Prime Minister Albanese? I honestly don't know. And that means our federal government and our nation are just drifting, being shaped by events rather than shaping them. That's a pretty sad turn of events at the best of times, but in such turbulent times strategically and economically, it's downright dangerous.
Good old Albo. Good old Albo. So yeah, the bit I was trying to find here was actually One Nation thing from Malcolm Robert, who sent this through to us. The WHO Director General Tedros. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to do too. Sorry. Too many things running through my head at once. A prime opportunity for, one of my favourites. Here we go. Make Albo go away. Make Albo go away. Definitely one of the best things I've ever seen. So yeah, he's hopeless. Time to flog the flogs, I mean, they're worried about Troy Thompson, Struth. Let's get rid of him. Let's get rid of Albo. I reckon that's far more important thing that the media should be focused on, Yep. I like that one. That's a good one. Puppetry of the penis. He most certainly is. So anyway, so the WHO director has conceded the failure of the WHO pandemic treaty at the start of the World Health Assembly number 77. This is a great day for those of us who have stood against a global health dictatorship, including myself and One Nation Australia. I'm not even going to try and say that friggin' name. There it is. You can read it. Was a terrorist with the Tiger Liberation Army while at the helm of the WHO. He has actively covered up the rape and sexual exploitation of women in the Congo by the WHO personnel, as found by his own investigative commission. The world has decided that this man and the degenerates at the WHO should not be trusted to lead the next pandemic response, perhaps by sacking this man and re-empowering the old guard at WHO, doctors who genuinely want to heal and do good. Trust in the organization could be restored. Funny that, the idea of doctors who genuinely want to heal and do good, you know, like what a strange concept, you know, that we are faced with here in the year 2024. Additionally, removing the influence of a predatory billionaire, Bill Gates, and his foundation. Well, that's a good idea. Who would have thought of that? As well as the globalist front groups like CEPI, who also help the WHO regain their damaged reputation. Nations don't need a pandemic treaty to review the COVID performance. They just need the will and the courage to scrutinize every aspect and uncover the truth behind the advocacy of fake science. Instead, governments worldwide, including Australia, are avoiding these issues, fearing the loss of sponsorship and protection provided by the crony capitalist world order. Years ago, I promised to hound down those responsible for the death and destruction caused by corporate cronyism in Australia, and I will continue to do so. Today is a good day for the resistance. Let this encourage all of us to renew our efforts to bring the guilty to justice and eliminate cronyism from our governance. Very well said. Very good. So there we are. We're pretty happy about that sort of stuff. What else have we got here? So yeah, we did the pair of drongos, didn't we? We only did that pair of drongos. There, we can get rid of that one. All right, so Mr. Malcolm Roberts again. The AEC lying. So I think I shortened this one a little bit. There's the video there, but there was a specific thing because it's 20 minutes long. You know, we don't really want to sit here for 20 minutes watching the whole thing. So there was a point here, and this is an example where Tracy's done a good job here and just gone, hey, look, at about 10 minutes, this is where you want to go. So I did. I followed her instructions, and now I've just got to find where I put it. Has it actually been imported yet? What did I call it again? Oh, that's right. It's called labor donations. Is that in? What do you mean that file's too large? All right, I got to re-export it. So we'll move on to something else in the meantime while I sort these out. Albanese received the largest pay rise in 10 years. I have a feeling that's another one. Yeah, that's another one I edited that's probably going to come up saying the same thing. So where's this guy in it? Digital ID bill. Right, cool. So we're going to do that one instead. Let's go. Where are we? So yeah.
Deputy Speaker, some things in this place are very black and white, and others are a little bit grey. And being a pragmatist, I try and take on both sides of the debate and understand it from both point of view. And there's no question that I've received a lot of terrible tales about cybersecurity and cyber attacks from constituents who have lost an awful lot of money over the last few years. And this bill on the surface goes to address that issue, which is a good thing. So on one hand, we have, you know, I'm a lot more comfortable with one organisation having my details than 20. So, for example, if I wanted to open an account with Optus or a bank or whoever, rather than have to give all these different organisations my information, the idea of giving it to one organisation such as a government, which in theory would spend and invest a lot more money in securing that information than a business would, because for a business it's an expense. It doesn't return any value to them. Whereas for governments, we have an obligation to protect people. So from that point of view, on the surface, it seems like a good bill. But deep down, whenever I face these questions of, I can see the good in it, but I can also see the bad in it, the question I always ask myself is, does it take away the freedom of choice? And that must be protected above everything else that we have in this country. And this bill takes away that freedom. It has the potential to. Now, the government is saying that it is a choice, and on the surface it looks like that. But when you read deep down and you go into section 74 of the bill, there are exemptions. And those exemptions, we've only got to go back to what happened during COVID with the state governments. Even though vaccinations were a choice, for many people they didn't feel like a choice. They couldn't go to work, they couldn't go to a football game, they couldn't go to a pub, they couldn't go interstate, they couldn't go to a funeral, they couldn't go to a wedding. That doesn't sound like much of a choice. And this has the potential to do exactly the same thing, and that is my concern, because it's a deprivation of human liberties. And we must protect that, because the greatest gift we've ever been given as human beings is a gift to choose. And when we take that away from people, we dehumanise them. We take away their humanity. And we can't do that. I'm also concerned with the fact that what will happen is that corporations and businesses, because they want most of all to report a greater return to their shareholders, which is their job, will do it at whatever cost to their consumer and their customer. And if they can find that this will make them more money on their bottom line by saving money of having to go through arduous other ways of finding ID and confirming someone's details, they will take it up. And then what they will do is they'll bring in policies that say, you can't open an account with us unless you go through this process. Again, taking away choice. You just cannot take away that choice. We're seeing it more and more, and we've heard it spoken about today, about Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World and all those sorts of things. And I don't want to dwell on these things because at the end of the day they're fictional, but people have correlated how much it's starting to seem like that. But I believe that it's our job as governments to sit there and as people in the parliament to look at it and pragmatically look at both sides. And I always try and do that because I think that most legislation that's introduced has a great motivation. And I don't think this is any exception. But we've got to drill down on the detail and make sure that it's actually going to do what it's designed to do. And I cannot see it doing that. The biggest issue with this is that when the coalition started to work on this, and I was on the committee that was working on this particular piece of policy, was that we said from the start, and I was never a fan of it, but from the start we said it must be a choice. It cannot be mandatory. And if it had stayed on that path, I may have reluctantly gone along with it, but the fact of the matter is, with this Section 74, that won't happen. Because I also understand that there are people out there who want to give their information to the government. You know what? That's their right. And they have the same rights as a person who doesn't want to give their information to the government. And both people should have their rights protected to make that choice. So as far as I'm concerned...
and we'll just leave it there. That pretty much sums it up, don't you think? So what's going to come of it, though? What's going to come of it? We'll come back to the elbow scenario. So I'm going to have to minimise that again so we can get this up. Where were we? So Albo's largest pay rise. Wow, that's where we were going to go. It is quite a big one. I quickly grabbed some key points.
Let's get into the day's news, and plenty of it that's around. Now, you would be pleased to know that we have a Prime Minister who feels our pain. Now, he doesn't do that with any of his actions, but of course he says it in speeches. He did so on Friday where he said, "I feel your cost of living pain." And why wouldn't Anthony Albanese be the man who absolutely feels our pain? I mean, he's the guy who, of course, decided to increase petrol taxes to 49 cents per litre, refuses to cut it, because that, of course, would help people. He's the guy who took $1,500 out of the automatic tax return for 10 million voters in Australia. He's the man who feels the cost of living pain because he, along with every other person in our federal government, got the largest pay rise in 10 years on his watch. Plus, of course, he's a man who certainly feels our pain because this was a cost of living budget. Everyone knows this was a cost of living budget because I don't know about you, totally solved for me. Like 100% easy. Like I was talking to the people here in Parkes, they've never had it better. Swimming in cash just because of the greatest Prime Minister of all time. But of course, he feels our pain and he feels for the little people because remember, this budget that produced an average tax cut of about, what, $36 per worker per week is getting not one but two private planes. That's the guy who understands cost of living. When he's going to spend basically the same amount of money he piddled up against the wall on a yes-no question that only Albo could turn from 60-40 yes into 60-40 hell no. He said, well, that was last year. This year it should be $450 million and not one but two private planes. Now, again, just to show that he cares, he's part of the greatest Prime Minister of all time speaking. Sorry, I'm a bit emotional. On Friday.
I know that when you are living week to week, it's hard to even find the time to think about the future, let alone plan for it with confidence.
But he shows himself to be a person as if he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, not a wooden spoon across his backside. He's a bloke who, of course, when he was in opposition, every single thing to do with cost of living was personal. It was the then Prime Minister and his government's fault.
What we know is that under Scott Morrison, cost of living is in crisis. We know that the price of everything is going up, but people's wages aren't. Scott Morrison, of course, is happy to always take credit for anything that goes right. But he always says it's not my job, it's someone else's fault, it's nothing to do with me when things aren't going so well.
So you see, cost of living is completely the Prime Minister's responsibility. Unless, of course, it's this Prime Minister. The Prime Minister blames the rising costs on 2 years of economic shocks and aftershocks which were caused by the pandemic, conflicts overseas, and the most significant international energy crisis in half a century. Yeah, because idiots like you think we should blow up the power system that worked to replace it with the one that'll cost $1 trillion to make and, fingers crossed, will work just as well as the previous one has.
There you go. Good old Albo. Don't you just love him? Don't you just love him? No more planes for you to take a hike. I think I'll give him the plane as long as he flies out of here and doesn't come back. Go join Sleepy Joe. It's nuts, how the hell could he possibly give a shit about us? He clearly doesn't. So is the AEC lying about the threat of disinformation? So we actually picked something different out of this. It wasn't so much about that. It's quite an interesting one. So we did that bit. And the people were asking who that fellow was too. This digital ID, it's Terry Young MP, by the way. So that's who that fellow was. I'd noticed that in the comments. So I thought I'd better help you out. But here we are back on to good old Malcolm Roberts here. And I'm just going to slide that up so I don't lose track of where I'm going. We did the Albo pay rise. Here's some more interesting things about the Labor Party and their deceit. We're worried so much about, Troy Thompson at the moment. Let's have a look some more at Labor deceit.
I think Australians should be very proud of their electoral system and also the work of all those bodies that I've mentioned before who assisted in creating such a high integrity and transparent system.
Well, I must say that we had a number of concerns about the electoral process and the electoral system. Many of those, with the exception of probably two, have been erased because of our discussions and because we now have audits as a result of me introducing legislation that the previous government then took up. So I will endorse your comments with the proviso that we've still got a couple of things that we're not happy with, but you do have audits now. And some of the issues you're responsible for are not easy. I get that. And one in particular I'd like to raise with you now is maybe you could elaborate on some of the issues faced with getting a clear picture when it comes to donations law. Really complex situation. On the returns for the Construction, Forestry, Maritime, Mining and Energy Union for 2022 and 2023, they donate huge sums to the Labor Party. The CFMEU has received more than $39 million from a company called Ableshaw, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of coal company Glencore. So, and then in 2021-22, they donated $9 million. So that's over 2 years, $48 million donated from basically Glencore or Glencore-owned companies to the CFMEU, to the Labor Party. So you've got tens of millions, 48 million, as I said, flying from a coal company through a subsidiary, through a union to the Labor Party, but the coal company doesn't show up in the returns for the Labor Party. Can you explain the difficulties in actually finding out where the money is originally coming from on the returns that are lodged?
So first of all, Senator, I haven't seen that particular return, so I'd have to obviously take that on notice and have a look, but I'm not aware that any of that breaches the existing legislation, and our role is to adhere to the legislation, promote the legislation, ensure that agencies are adhering to that. As you know, donation, the whole funding and disclosure issue is the most complex part of the Electoral Act. It is highly technical, and as long as those entities are meeting their obligations for transparency under the Act, and I have no information that they're not, I'd have to have a look at that specific issue in detail.
This is it is on a register from CFMEU, I think I said, but that's an awful lot of money to be hidden, and it's not deliberately. Perhaps it's inadvertently hidden. I think the intent is deliberate, because it seems a bit strange that money is going from a coal company to a mining union to the Labor Party.
So there you go. There you go. Here's another fellow who likes the CFMEU. Bob Katter to run CFMEU candidates in marginal Queensland coal seats. Bob Katter says, God bless the CFMEU. I wasn't aware of just how hooked up some of these politicians are with these organisations. And we all seen how well the CFMEU looked after its members during the pandemic, didn't we? They were wonderful people. Was it their windows that got smashed in? Maybe they were just trying to get Glaziers another job. I don't know. But, you know, some disturbing stuff. A lot of money being funneled through the Labor Party, through the CFMEU, from coal. And they're trying to tell us they care about the environment while they're bulldozing friggin' rainforests to put up those eyesore wind turbines. Well done, guys. Well done. So thank you, Senator, for pointing that out. So what else have we got? What is the point? Elbow. We did that one. That was a good one. What else we got here? An Australian scientist worked with Fauci to cover up the origins of COVID. Why? That is a very good question. Let's have a look at it, shall we? Where is it? Here it is. I'm just going to put that there. And
Tanya Munro, Chief Defence Scientist.
Yeah, hi, Miss Munro. Thanks for your patience today. I know you've been waiting all day. Look, the reason why I've asked you here is that the consortium, on its website, the consortium seeks to develop medical countermeasures to assist with all hazard preparedness and response for the participant countries. The emphasis of the consortium is on chemical, biological and radiological threats affecting civilian and military populations, and on emerging infectious diseases and pandemics. Now, the reason, first question, I guess, is, as I note, that money has been distributed by the federal government. 3 years ago, 2017, $3.5 million was given to Professor Edward Holmes for research into RNA viruses. He's just got another $700,000 for research into preparing for pandemics. But he also worked for the Chinese Centre for Disease Control from 2014 onwards. And he was also named in emails in the US Congress as having liaised with Australian intelligence. Have you liaised with Professor Edward Holmes at all? And if so, what did you discuss?
Thank you, Senator, for your question. As I said, Tanya Munro, Chief Defence Scientist. I can make some general remarks about the medical countermeasures activities, but I don't have specific details here about Professor Holmes. I have not had personal interactions with him.
Sure. Okay. So I guess the reason why I'm concerned is that he, as in the US Congress, it's been disclosed that an Australian scientist worked with Anthony Fauci to cover up the origins of coronavirus, in particular the gain-of-function research. Now, he conducts gain-of-function research here in Australia, as I believe other scientists do. If you're concerned about the threats of, as your own page says, biological threats affecting civilian and military populations, are you prepared to discuss with Professor Holmes what exactly his involvement was with the origins of coronavirus, why he was working with the Chinese Centre of Disease Control, and why he seemed so keen to cover up the gain-of-function theory?
I can confirm that we have not supported any work that it can be classified as gain-of-function research. I am happy to take on notice some further work to look at in more detail what Professor Holmes has been doing.
Are you prepared to investigate the threat of gain-of-function research here in Australia and from threats overseas coming back into Australia, as we saw with COVID-19?
We have been involved in whole-of-government work that's had a look at what has been done in Australia on gain-of-function research, and I looked through that carefully myself and was comfortable that we have not supported any work in that area. I'm happy to update that and come back on notice.
Yeah, I mean, look, it happens here in Australia, and I mean, I get people do research on viruses. That's not the issue. I guess the issue is how are you dealing with the risks that there's an outbreak, whether intended or not. Because, you know, this is something that scientists are obviously clearly going to be doing. We know that they're, you know, saying there's only a matter of time before another pandemic outbreak. So I guess that's my point. I mean, it's not just specifically to what happened in the past, but to the overall general threat and risk of, you know, unregulated gain-of-function research.
I hear your comments and I'm happy to come back with more detail, but as I said, we have not supported work in this area and I'm not aware of any detail.
I'm not asking if you're supporting it. I'm asking if you are analysing the risk and looking at minimising those potential risks.
We do work very carefully and connectedly with the whole of the system here in Australia to understand how the biological research being done in this nation can bring benefit to defence. We have not done a recent analysis of risk, but I'm happy to come back with more detail on notice.
Do you think the fact that Professor Edward Holmes worked with the Chinese Centre for Disease Control warrants an investigation, at least, in terms of looking at risk?
I think, Senator, that I'd need to have some more information at hand before I could form a judgment on whether such an investigation was warranted.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Ow. Needs more information. Struth, I think what the Senator asked was enough information for warranted an investigation, in my opinion. But, you know, I guess they don't pay me the big bucks. I don't get paid much at all. So there you have that one. What else have we got here? The hunt for the department responsible of gain-of-function research continues. Did I get that one? Yeah, I could have sworn I got that one. Maybe we need to... Oh, yeah. Well, while we're on the Labor Party construct too, here's a good one while I figure out what the hell happened with that.
This video...
I found it. Here it is.
Think you have questions?
Yes, please. Thanks, Chair. Hi, guys. How are you going? Look, I've got questions regarding the involvement of Australian scientists with the gain-of-function research around the coronavirus, and in particular Ed Holmes. It's been disclosed that emails said that he discussed the origins of coronavirus with intelligence, and I was wondering if you would know which department Ed Holmes, Professor Ed Holmes, is a biological research professor from Sydney University, which intelligence department that he spoke with?
I don't know.
No, I know it's not ASIO, but, you know.
I don't think it's our business to know.
It's not your business to know?
No.
Right, because I've asked ASIO and they don't want to know about it. So I'm just curious to know where I go to.
Well,
if it's not you, who do I go to?
Inspector General. Just if you give me one moment. Senator Rennick, the agency before you has a very specific remit, and I don't know whether they can answer the question you're asking. I don't know if anyone else at the table can direct you correctly, but I think we might be at cross purposes here.
Okay, that's fine, Chair. I'll ask one question.
Yeah.
So which agency is responsible for gain-of-function research in Australia and the threat that it poses to Australians? Because gain-of-function research is happening here in Australian universities, and we know...
we may have been at cross purposes before, but the answer is I don't know the answer to that question, and it's not my job to find out.
Okay, that's fine. I know it's my job. It's my job to find out. You clearly don't know. That's fine. I've asked ASIO. They don't want to know about it, so I thought you might know. But that's fine. If you don't want to know about it, that's cool. It's another cross purposes with the departments. Cool.
It's not they don't want to know about it. They've said it's not their legislative remit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Good to know. I'll get there one day. There's a lot of departments in this federal government for a country of 25
Perhaps your
million
colleagues
people.
can give you some assistance.
Good to have a hobby.
Is that all the questions you have?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Okay,
Thanks for your patience.
thank you very much.
There you have it. Some more fun and games there. What else have I found? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Tracy, for a lot of the stuff that you're seeing. You can thank Tracy, who we all seen on Friday night. She's done some amazing work while I've been driving. Man dies after falling 20 metres in wind tower collapse near Lake Proserpine. The 34-year-old died at Queensland worksite after falling 20 metres. The man has died after falling from collapsing wind monitoring tower in central Queensland. Emergency services were called to an industrial site along Station Road near Lake Proserpine after a 34-year-old Bamboo Creek man fell about 20 metres just before 1 p.m. on Thursday. Paramedics treated the man for critical injuries. However, he died at the scene. 20 metres is a long way to fall. That would have really hurt. Poor bugger. A Queensland police spokesman said the death was sudden and non-suspicious. That's interesting. The death was sudden. Paramedics treated a man for critical injuries. Death was sudden. Paramedics treated a man for critical injuries. Anyone else having trouble getting that down? Like, I'm just, it seems to be stuck in my throat somewhere. I can't quite figure out. Like, it's just weird. Not my job today. Show a Friday night show. Yeah, it was a long one. I think the first couple of hours is probably the more important part. But it was good to have Robin come in and say good day, and we all had a bit of a yarn and a couple of drinks. It was a bit of fun. Guys and girls, better late than never. Yes, definitely. And somebody asked if this is live. Yeah, right now it's live. I'm alive. This is live. Welcome to the party. All right. We're attending the incident inquiry into the matter continuing, so they're still looking into it. Unable to provide information. 7news.com.au understands the project. So the website understands. The website understands the project is in its development phase, meaning no turbines are installed. It's believed the accident involved wind monitoring equipment. In a statement to the website, Proserpine Wind Farm said it was shocked and saddened. Wow, North Queensland Freedom Network is pretty interested in the knowledge of a fucking website. Is it being run by AI? Like, come on. Oh man, that's good. The safety and well-being of employees. Yeah. So of course it didn't really say much, does it, about what's going on? They don't really know. Somebody died. We're chasing ambulances again. Well done, Channel 7. Oh, well done, 7news.com.au. Oh, but it says here it's by Sarah Cazelia. Is she an AI bot for Channel 7? 7news.com.au. This is bloody weird. This is weird. I don't. 7news.com.au understands. It understands. It's a very understanding piece of software. Definitely intelligent AI. Eh? Wow. Dan Andrews car crash, the political cover-up. Good old Labor Party, you know, like they're so concerned about our mayor, you know, being a little bit, you know, lapsing in memory, perhaps. That's the way he's put it. You know, he's had a few concussions and whatnot. You know, he's owning his mistakes. Well, let's have a look at how Dan Andrews and the Labor government, you know, work to own their mistakes, shall we? Where is it? This one.
This video has been released by Ryan Muleman and his family.
On the day of the crash, it was a shock, above all. And no parent expects any of this sort of thing to happen. It really hits home just how fragile life can be. The public support since the revelations about more of the circumstances of the crash and where the impact was on the car, it's opened up a lot of people's eyes and realised that there was a cover-up that decade ago. Ryan was a really sporty kid, a very active kid, and the accident knocked the confidence out of him to a point where he didn't really think that he could do the activities that he could do previously. And I think he went into his shell, and ultimately that turned him down the darker path of drug addiction. It's been over a decade since the accident. Ryan hasn't recovered. He's still trauma affected. He should have been a young teenager growing into a young adult, forging a life with a job, career, trade, and all of that has been swept aside from him. To have nearly lost your son in an accident and then to have the other party publicly blame that victim in order to try and clean sheet their own persona. I think he missed an opportunity to do the right thing, to conduct himself with integrity at a scene of crisis. He could have been the hero of the situation and said, "Oh, look, got involved in a terrible accident, but I rendered assistance," and everybody, if he'd done that and said that to the public of Victoria, people would have gone, "What a stand-up guy he was." But he didn't do that. He cowered from the scene. He ran from the scene. I believe he left his wife, Kath, who gave her maiden name to cover up also. He left her at the scene to attend, and he fled the scene and also took the car away from the crash scene, which my understanding is that's illegal as well. It was really hard to think that here's the people's elected premier, put into the most powerful position in the state, and yet he can't conduct himself with honesty and integrity. We're fighting for him, and we're trying our best to bring the truth out of the circumstances to enable Ryan to have some closure on that incident and enable him to get the rest of his life back and to try and put this decade worth of trauma behind him. take the politics out of it. In any kind of incident, you just want those two parties to be able to put their hand up and say, look, this was the circumstances of it. It's not about blame appropriation. It's just about both parties being responsible, both of them being truthful and honest. I have heard the term political waste used in this case towards my son, and that's incredible that they would put a young man's life, a boy's life, and just dispose of that and put it under the term of political waste in order to advance your own political career or protect your own political career. I'm so humbled by the amount of support. I thought we were just that dad and son from down in Bleagarry who got battered down by the system, and we were just going to have to wear that for the rest of our lives. If I look deep, real deep, I can still see that there's a good kid in there, but the damage that's been done to him over the course of the last decade, I'm concerned. I question at times whether there's really a road back from that amount of damage. I think it's probably traumatized him and it'll affect him for the rest of his life. But here we are now with a lot of voices gathering around us, giving us vindication, and so that strengthens us, and hopefully it'll be enough to get it to a court of justice so that justice can prevail and we can put closure on it. The truth comes out and Ryan can get on with his life.
Throughout his time as Premier, Daniel Andrews and his wife Catherine were never held accountable for the crash. Surely, it's time. Follow the story and share on your socials.
So yeah, Labor Party, amazing people, aren't they? I mean, of course, I've discussed this in the past, but, seeing, they're all so heavily about the integrity right now as they headhunt for Troy Thompson, for having a few words out of place. We really do need to look at those who are doing the headhunting, because we know this is the Labor Party. We know the Labor Party cronies are still infecting our council. And, they're obviously very upset that their chosen one was kicked out by the general public. They're not happy about that. They want somebody that's under the thumb, the kind of person that's more than happy to run people over and, pass the blame, That's the kind of people we want in the Labor Party, And not to mention, we've got wonderful things here. You can go and have a look at this on Constitution Watch. The exclusive red shirt scandal. Did senior police pervert the course of justice? 2018 Victorian Ombudsman found Labor had misused $388,000 during the red shirt scandal. Below is an exclusive release of a police task force member official statement revealing revelations that senior police could have perverted the course of justice to protect Labor Party members and stop influence over the 2018 Victorian election. So, Victoria could have been saved a dictator, Dan, during the pandemic if it wasn't for the Victorian police perhaps perverting the course of justice here. The task force on the matter was stopped after arresting 17 Labor parliamentarians and gagged from speaking about the matter. We now ask you, the court of public opinion, was the course of justice perverted? Was there election interference? And here's the statement from, the policeman, stating that, he fundamentally, in short, they were arresting them, and all of a sudden everything just got stopped from up above. Lovely statement. Go through and have a read. It's huge, and make your own mind up. Do you think this is what happened? Did the Labor Party use its influence within the police force to cover these things up? Did they also use their influence to perhaps, save one of their Labor cronies here in Townsville when she allegedly ran somebody over, And how often do they do this? How often has the Labor Party interfered in police proceedings to save their own asses? You've got to wonder. You've got to wonder when you see all this stuff coming out time and time again. You know what? We obviously need more Labor Party people to protect us, don't we? Astounding. But there's some also interesting things, other interesting things when you type in the word Labor into the search party bar here, the things that come up: COVID-19 Royal Commission, jaw-dropping discovery, CDC data reveals COVID vaccine should shave off 24 years. Reveals could shave off 24 years from men's lives. Wow. Let's have a look, shall we? Jaw-dropping discovery, CDC data reveals COVID vaccine could shave off 24 years from men's lives. This is back in September 5th. I know it's an old story, but, I don't think I brought it to you guys yet. So let's have a look. Long-term consequences of COVID-19 vaccination are now being realized. A year ago, double vaccinated Australians were 10.72 times more likely to catch Omicron than the unvaccinated. Now they are 20 times more likely, and the triply or more vaxxed, triply and more vaxxed are 35 times more likely, as the latest New South Wales health states show. See below. Here's your data. In fact, CDC all-cause mortality data shows that each vaccine dose increased mortality by 7% in the year 2022 compared to the mortality in year 2021. So if you have had 5 doses, then you were 35% more likely to die in 2022 than you were in 2021. If you have had 1 dose, you were then dose, then you were 7% more likely to die in 2022 than you were in 2021. If you are unvaccinated, then you were no more likely to die in 2022 than you were in 2021. Glad I made a wise decision. So on 2022, September 12th, 6,199 employees were unvaccinated. 2,359 were single jabbed. 13,804 were double jabbed, and 20,798 were triple jabbed, and 3,538 were quad jabbed or pentajabbed with the original vaccine, which was designed against the Wuhan HU1 reference virus, which was not isolated from a human but was generated on a computer. So there's lots of stuff here. Look at all these information. Life expectancy of unvaccinated and 1 to 5 dose UK males. Very interesting data. Very interesting data. So, it's another example of those of us who didn't get it are certainly not regretting having joined up with the masses who did comply. Very fascinating stuff, wouldn't you agree? Very fascinating stuff. By all means, you go and have a look at that, though. Some good stuff. Speaker Johnson urges Supreme Court to overturn dangerous Trump guilty verdict. So, in case you haven't been keeping up, yep, he got the guilty verdict because we knew that was going to happen. Like, it was pretty obvious that these things were going to happen. No matter, we would be in serious trouble. Why isn't he? Exactly. Could have perverted. Did pervert? Well, I'm not going to cast wild, unfounded accusations. Just look at the evidence, I guess, and let it speak for itself. I think we should definitely be arresting all those Labor. I think for safety's sake, it might be a wise decision to just arrest all of Parliament, lock them up, and let's go through and have a look at what they've done. And we'll let them out once we figured out, okay, yeah, you are... we're acting for the people like you're supposed to. You're not involved in any of these scandals. You can go back about your business. And what's the worst that can happen? We could save a lot of money. Stop them passing horrific bills. I honestly don't see any negative connotations to removing government from us right now. Anyway. So the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, said that the US Supreme Court should get involved and overturn former President Donald Trump's guilty verdict in his business records falsification trial in New York, with the Speaker arguing that the circumstances of the case have led to an erosion of public faith in America's justice system. No shit. Didn't see that coming. There's a lot of developments yet to come, but I do believe the Supreme Court should step in. Obviously, this is totally unprecedented and it's dangerous to our system, Mr. Johnson said on a May 31st appearance on Fox and Friends. Jury found the former president guilty on May 30th in a case in which he was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records in order to conceal non-disclosure payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels as part of a bid to influence the 2016 presidential election in which he was a candidate. The guilty verdict made President Trump the first former president in U.S. history to be convicted of a crime, with a former president vowing to appeal the verdict and calling the trial very unfair. This is a scam. This is a rigged trial. This is a rigged judge. President Trump said at the press conference on the 31st of May, adding that a specific election expert wasn't allowed to testify on certain issues related to the trial. Some legal experts have questioned whether Judge Juan Merkin might be a better name for him, in instructions to the judge were unfairly biased toward a conviction. So that goes on and on. Quite an extensive article. Feel free to go through and have a look at it. But, let's wait and see, because we know Trump's not going to take this lying down. And if anything, I think all they've really managed to achieve is make him more popular. Everything they've done just makes the situation worse for them, and I think much the same as this witch hunt for Troy will hopefully make everything worse for the Labor Party. It certainly shows that our mainstream media are definitely on the side of big corrupt parties. I guess so long as they're receiving their tax breaks and all the little government prop ups, they'll continue to do that sort of thing too. You have to wonder why the Townsville Bulletin was gunning so hard from the word go. Could it have anything to do with the fact that the former mayor Jenny Hill, at least was, I'm not sure if she still is, a board member of the Bulletin, amongst other things. You got to wonder, these things are dodgy. Why would the Townsville Bulletin investigate somebody who's on the board? That doesn't make sense, does it? That's bias, and it's another reason why the Townsville Bulletin's best application is at the bottom of a birdcage. All right, so what do we go? Exit the WHO. This article is designed to be a resource center for people who oppose the negotiations regarding the pandemic treaty. It looks like it's we kind of already sort of got a win there, haven't we? I don't think we need to sort of go through this one anymore. I think this is one of the ones that Jan sent me. Jan sent me a lot of stuff. This is the episode Jake Slew and I were discussing on the Friday podcast as well. If anybody's interested in looking at it, 3.5 hours or 3 hours and 8 minutes long. I might check that out during the day. As I get around town over the next few days. Oh, excuse me. It's just tiring work doing all this, I tell you. I mean, Terrence Howard is an actor of stage and screen, lauded for his work in Crash, Iron Man, Empire, and Shirley, as well as a musician and researcher in the fields of logic and engineering. And I have seen little snippets of this interview. Actually, it was very interesting. How well informed he was about certain issues. So go and have a look. It was pretty good. Here's another one: leadership overhaul of the Raytheon Australia amid tensions with government over massive weapons project. An American defense company chosen to help set up a missile production enterprise in Australia has removed senior figures from its local business following tensions with the Albanese government over the multi-billion-dollar project. Good old Albo, he's at it again, eh? Raytheon Australians Managing Director Michael Ward and other members of the leadership team are departing just 2 years after the firm was selected as a strategic partner for the Sovereign Guided Weapons and Explosive Ordnance Enterprise. In a statement emailed to staff this week and obtained by the ABC, Raytheon's Global Vice President Chanda Nihon, I guess. Nihon, I don't know. Not sure. After 24 years of service, Michael Ward has retired from the company while he conducted an extensive search for his replacement. There we go. I'm not sure why you sent me this one, Janice. You know, Janice, like, you send me so much stuff. I'm half tempted to go. We might have to give you like a little spot at some point. You can go through and explain some of the things that you send me, because so much. But anyway, interesting stuff. So, heroic Japanese physician risks life and reputation to bring truth about mRNA vaccines. Professor Fukushima. Masanori Fukushima, a renowned physician in Japan, is the most senior medical oncologist in the country since the advent of the COVID in Japan. In early 2020, he has been trying to bring the most critical medical news to the medical and larger communities to improve patient care. To 2020, the professor received news about steroid use early in the treatment of COVID complications, and once he established new guidelines in 2020, the COVID death rate dropped dramatically. Interesting. Dr. Fukushima's 2024 presentation has made the Commissioner Medico Scientifica Independente and posted on April 23rd, 2024. His commentary is a tour de force summary of issues surrounding the introduction of genetic vaccines. A summary of his presentation with excerpts quoted follows. Turbo cancer. About what's called turbo cancer, a type previously unseen by doctors, categorized by its incredibly fast speed. By the time it's discovered, it is already in stage 4 advanced cancer, and such cases are starting to sporadically appear in consultations. Thus, doctors began sharing information about these extraordinary cases that are different from before. So this has gradually become a situation since last year and the year before that. Specific types of cancer related to the vaccine are exhibiting excess mortality, including breast cancer, ovarian cancer, thyroid cancer, esophageal cancer, lung cancer, and prostate cancer. Dr. Fukushima declared this phenomenon cannot be simply explained by disruptions such as early screening being available due to the pandemic or lost opportunities for treatment. So either way, the way they've dealt with this pandemic, whether they're going to point that as the excuse or not, has been very damaging. Essentially murder. Dr. Fukushima said that the COVID vaccine is severe for healthy people, those who had never been ill before, not knowing when they might die to be vaccinated and then die. It's serious. It's essentially murder in the end. So, as he said here, a crisis in medicine, science, and democracy. I am now deeply concerned not only about the crisis in medicine, but also about the significant crisis in science and democracy. I am increasingly alarmed as a scientist and a doctor that this vaccine should not have been administered at the national level, and it should not have been approved and brought to market. I firmly believe at this point in time, the idea that the WHO would lead a uniform vaccination program in countries with differing medical circumstances, habits, and systems is fundamentally flawed. There you go. So, vaccination directed by the WHO across all these diverse conditions is fundamentally incorrect. Healthcare varies according to people's lifestyles, habits, medical systems, and the legal system and cultures of the country. Therefore, promoting vaccines on a global scale uniformly, whether they are genetic vaccines or not, is somewhat absurd. Somewhat absurd? I'm just going to go with flat out is. Genetic vaccines are useless. Genetic vaccines are completely useless. Do we need to get into why? Why not? Introducing genes into humans is gene therapy, which is what a lot of people are saying is experimental gene therapy. When administering messenger RNA based on nanoparticles, it results in off-target effects. In fact, this includes the ovaries and also affects the brain, liver, the spleen, the bone marrow, with major concern being its migration to the bone marrow. Then there's the impact on the ovaries and other reproductive organs. Spike proteins found a year later. So spike proteins are detected in bumps in skin a year after vaccination. The fact that spike proteins are detected in the skin with bumps even after more than a year indicates that the production of spike proteins is predictable. The issue of spike proteins, which shouldn't persist for a year, indicates a severe problem. Recent findings, such as those from the Kochi University in Japan, underline these issues, suggesting the shitty organization hastily promoted vaccines without proper review. No shit. More than 2,000 have died in Japan. There are reports of over 2,000 deaths. More than 2,000 have died. They died because of the vaccine. There are 2,134 reported death cases. And this number wasn't compiled by me or him. It's a figure officially reported by the government and posted online. These are currently cases of death. Currently, there are tens of thousands of people who must see a doctor due to vaccine-related issues. 13% of these are suffering from myalgic encephalomyelitis or some shit. I'm not even going to try. I'm making words up, I think. Chronic fatigue syndrome. These conditions still lack a conclusive treatment. Wow, there's a lot here. Let's sum it up. So, dismissing damage is an evil act. No shit. Pandora's box of diseases unleashed. Lipid nanoparticle delivery systems have failed. This type of drug delivery system utilized lipid nanoparticles and is a total failure. There you go. Collapse of the science community. As someone who was the first to establish pharmacological epidemiology in Japan, I feel responsible. Though I am retired, I still chair a research institute, and since science is my field of study, I continue as my mission. But now, coming to this point, all scientists are hesitating, and moreover, as panelists, they are engaging in censorship. This is the collapse of the science community. It's a great defeat. Such things should never happen. Well, that's it. Science is supposed to just look at the evidence and be what it is, but it doesn't seem to be doing that these days. Yeah, the government is killing us. It's not a lot of parliamentary pensions being paid. Yeah, Trump's verdicts have been open. So, shine the light of science on genetic vaccines. We must confront this directly again and shine the light of science on it. We should never again use such vaccines. This is a shame for humanity. It's a disgrace that we did this. There you go, from a doctor. Not me. I'm not saying this. Dr. Fukushima is saying it. There you go. What else have we got? From the I believe in free speech but files hate speech laws. Oh yeah, so nobody can define what hate speech is. You cannot criminalize that which you cannot define, yet that is what the EU censorship laws do and what is being attempted in Canada and Ireland, and I'm sure not in a country near you soon. This is what the censorship operating system of socialism, unaccountable censorship, authority without accountability equals authoritarianism, automated by AI. NGOs fringe groups formed to promote their own minority opinions complained to the EU Commission, who instructs social media companies to remove content. The actions do not approach the cuts ever. No threshold to prove criminal intent, leading to lower implicit thresholds. Politician is responsible for the comments on their posts, hence can be censored, and debate is shut down. There you go. So that's another one you can all have a look at Peter's newsletter there. I think that's pretty straightforward stuff. And we did the Troy one. Got that going there. What else did we find? It's time Australia exits the WHO. It wants to become legit. So there's a Australia exit the WHO.com. It's something I was going to look up there, but I've lost my plot now, so I'll come back to it maybe next week. All right, so this is one I wanted to have a yarn about as we march proudly into World War III with fucking Russia. I was hearing about this during the week, and I thought, we should have a yarn about that. Ukraine pulls US-provided Abrams tanks from front lines over Russian drone threats. So here we have millions of dollars worth of tank being taken out by drones. Ukraine has sidelined US-provided Abrams M1A1 battle tanks for now in its fight against Russia, in part because Russian drone warfare has made it too difficult for them to operate without detection or coming under attack, 2 US military officials told the Associated Press. The US agreed to send 31 of the tanks to Ukraine in July 2023 after an aggressive months-long campaign by Kiev, pleading that the tanks, which cost about $10 million apiece, were vital to its ability to breach Russian lines, which they haven't achieved. But the battlefield has changed substantially since then, notably by the ambiguous use of Russian surveillance drones and hunter-killer drones. Those weapons have made it more difficult for Ukraine to protect the tanks when they are quickly detected and hunted by Russian drones. 5 of the 31 tanks have already been lost to Russian attacks. So I lost 5 out of 31. Interesting. Well, let's see. Soldiers in Ukraine say US supplied tanks have made them targets for Russian strikes. Let's get this going. Can you guys hear this? Sound check.
Prime target for Russian missiles. But if Moscow knew the trouble these US supplied Abrams tanks are causing Ukraine, they might not bother. Let them keep them. The M1 Abrams, America's main battle tank, a veteran of fighting Saddam in Iraq and desert insurgents. But muddy Ukrainian fields and $500 attack drones, not so much.
There was such a fuss around whether Ukraine would get these, but from the moment the decision was made, yes, through the training, through the time it took to get to the front line, the war has enormously changed.
All 31 America gave are now in one area in the east where Ukraine is losing ground. For a kind of war NATO would only fight backed by huge artillery and air power.
Okay, sorry about that. Looks like that was coming through. So I'll go back to the beginning.
They hide feverishly as they're primed.
How's that now?
Russian missiles. But if Moscow knew the trouble these US supplied Abrams tanks are causing Ukraine, they might not bother. Let them keep them. The M1 Abrams, America's main battle tank, a veteran of fighting Saddam in Iraq and desert insurgents. But muddy Ukrainian fields and $500 attack drones, not so much.
There was such a fuss around whether Ukraine would get these, but from the moment the decision was made, yes, through the training, through the time it took to get to the front line, the war has enormously changed.
All 31 America gave are now in one area in the east where Ukraine is losing ground. Training in Germany, the interior in Ukrainian. And while there is gratitude for all US help, they can't pretend this is working.
Його броня на сьогоднішній момент абсолютно недостатня, вона не захищає екіпаж. Насправді на сьогоднішній момент це війна броня. Тепер, коли виїжджає танк, його завжди намагаються вразити.
Ціль номер один.
Ціль номер один.
На полі бою, виходить, без захисту екіпаж не виживає. They've learned the hardest way here in the pitched battle for the city of Avdiivka. One of their drivers lost a leg recently. Off camera, they show us how they're adding active armor plates on themselves. Then there are the shells. Not enough. Of the wrong type for the wrong sort of fight.
Те, що ми маємо, більш розраховано на прямі танкові бої. Досить часто ти працюєш як артилерія, тобі треба розібрати посадку або будинок. У нас був випадок, коли 17 пострілів хапало на стрій.
Better than Soviet tanks, they still say, even though this one, fresh from Poland, is already broken down. Condensation can fry the electrics, they also say. Really, this is a solid gold wrench of a gift. This is a tank for a kind of war NATO would only fight backed by huge artillery and air power. They're being asked to do things NATO never would.
Так, вони цього не зробили. Спочатку авіація, артилерія, потім заходять танки, піхота. Call the aviation, call the artillery. We have no aviation and artillery. We have only tank. And it's the point.
One Abrams was captured and paraded in Red Square recently. The crew here choke. At least the Russians managed to tow it away. They've been struggling as these are so heavy. This threadbare army losing ground perhaps wish they got a gift receipt. If you could ask the Americans for one thing now, what would you ask for?
У мене єдине питання, чому це відбувається отак довго і частково? Ми втрачаємо час, і для нас це смерть.
Machines built at the peak of American hyperpower decades ago, sent half-heartedly, it seems, to hold back a fast-changing world. Nick Payton-Walsh, CNN, Eastern Ukraine.
There you go, eh? Fascinating stuff, eh? Here's another one.
Використовувати передану нашими партнерами західну зброю для того, щоб бити ворога і наближати нашу перемогу.
Працюємо, короткі черги. До 150 метрів.
Today, your forces are moving forward. They face fierce fighting, but they are gradually gaining ground.
Які важливі для глобальної продовольчої безпеки, потрібна і відповідна інтенсивність тиску на Росію та відповідне посилення нашого повітряного щита.
There you go. American tanks are just not standing up to it, apparently. So, yeah, cheap Russian drones overwhelm US-made Abrams tanks. It's an interesting one, isn't it? You know, cheap Russian drones. I mean, they are up against, you know, and it just instantly reminded me of back in the day. You know, there was the NASA spent, what was it, $6 billion making a pen that would write in space. Russians took a pencil. Just let that sink in. $6 billion on a fucking pen that would write in space, and the Russians took a pencil. And then you compare that to this statement: cheap Russian drones overwhelm US-made Abrams tanks. We see where this is going, right? They found a cheap solution to taking out $10 million tanks. It's pretty disgraceful, and it doesn't look good for the American army. Do we really want to join America in World War III against Russia when they're clearly more focused on making money than they are actually making something that works, you know? So a loud cheer went up amongst Ukraine's support when the US announced in 2023 it would deliver a battalion of Abrams tanks to Ukraine. The hope was that the 31 US-made tanks, which are far superior to Russian T-72 tanks that is in wide use by Russian forces, would be a game changer. So they're very determined to make sure these tanks are far superior, you know, but they're being taken out by cheap drones. So, you know, I'm not seeing how the superiority factor is working here. The Abrams has better front armor and more powerful gun than that can penetrate the Russian tank's armor. But we just had an old mate there telling us how they hit a house 17 times and the building was still standing. Fascinating. However, the evolving dynamics of warfare, particularly the proliferation of Russian surveillance and hunter-killer drones, have dramatically altered the operational landscape. It turned out that Abrams were more vulnerable to Russian attacks than previously believed. So, you know, they've had a pretty good success, you know, fighting off people in Afghanistan and whatnot, you know, very poorly armed and poorly equipped. Now we're turning up against, you know, the Russians who, you know, clearly a little bit, you know, better at this warfare thing than the Middle Eastern peoples, and they're not doing too well. I don't think we should really be, you know, so quick to jump in on this one. Honestly, I think the best solution is to stop funding wars, you know, because, you know, we know what's happening. All this money from, you know, that Australia and various other countries are donating is going straight to the US war machine to provide shitty fucking tanks that don't bloody work. And now, you know, that's obviously not going to look good for weapons sales, is it? You know, America's weapons sales division is probably going to be severely hurt by this as well. So, yeah. Military, you know, I guess that's a fail for US, not military, US weapons manufacturers, I guess. All right, so we've kind of come to the end there. It's 2 hours in. I think it is time to start getting some votes in. So, what do you guys reckon? What are our fails this week from all this shit that we've just shown? You know. Pointless. Tracy's calling me. Sorry, Tracy, I'm on the show right now. I'll call you back. Ukraine theater showed the full emblem on the second clip. NATO is evil. Elon Musk X to stage town hall with Donald Trump. Why is the supposedly new flu vax made in 2020? That's a good question. Where'd you see that, man? You want to shoot me an email? If you've seen that, I would like to see it. Breaking: the International Health Regulation amendments have passed. Oh. Robert, you want to send me something? Mark Butler at the World Health Assembly. Fail for Mark Butler, says Robin. Those tanks have to be a fail. Yep. The tanks are a fail. So what are we looking at? The Abrams. M1A1. There we go. There's one fail for you. Vote the asleep sheep. Asleep sheep, hey? Asleep sheep, hey? One for Richo. The broom must stew in order to fight the flu. Batting a clip while I could watch two last night. I can't today. Let's have a look in my email. All right, to the top. Okay, so we've. Let me grab this. Yeah. Sorry, guys, bear with me. I'm going to grab this video. Actually, it's probably easier just to play it, eh? Where did that end up? It was there. Now it's gone. Let's just drop it here, eh? Paste and go. I love it. Things autoplay. I'm not ready. You haven't even turned the volume on, stupid machine. Alrighty then. Let's see what Robin has to say. Nothing, because of why I turned that up. Yeah.
Right, greetings everybody. Robin here from Carrington Secure. It's Sunday the 2nd of June 2024. So we've just had the Director General of the World Health Organization very happily announced that the International Health Regulation amendments have been passed. So I'm thrilled that I will be having Mr. James Roguski for an interview in the next couple of days. We're just figuring out the time and the exact date. James Roguski is most certainly an authority on the World Health Organization, and he has been monitoring their activities for a very long time. I've interviewed James previously a number of times, so I'm looking forward to speaking to him in the next couple of days. So we know at the 77th World Health Assembly that the Pandemic Treaty, that's in inverted commas because it has many names, they didn't manage to pass that. The working group were not able to come to an agreement in regards to that, but we've just had Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros, announced that the International Health Regulation amendments have indeed been accepted. So it's very interesting. So keep checking back on the page, because I'm sure I am shadow banned and you won't be notified as to when I'll be interviewing James. It will be in the next couple of days, and as I said, he is most certainly very knowledgeable and an authority on the World Health Organization. So please join me for that, and as soon as I know the date and time, I will post it on my page. The International Health Regulation amendments being passed is a concern, because the intention behind these amendments is not as genuine as they would lead you to believe, almost as fake as the filter that I'm currently using. So please keep checking back on my page. As I said, I'm shadow banned for the date and time of the interview with James Roguski regarding the International Health Regulation Amendments. So that's breaking news this morning, everybody. Mr. Tedros smiling, big Cheshire cat smile. It's quite disturbing. All right, everyone. So enjoy the rest of your day, and as soon as I know, I will let everybody know when James will be joining me for an interview. All righty, everyone. Till my next video, I'm going to say bye.
There you go. There we have it now. Right, so many bloody things open now. I've lost where everything is. Control A. See. Another one that has been sent to me. Let's open this up. Let's drop that down. All right, so Albo got another vote. Good old Albo. He pops up every week. He's amazing, isn't he? Messaged you a link. Did you send that to my phone? It looks like a lot of things have come to my phone. Let's have a look. Maybe that. That's not what I wanted you to do. Bloody thing. Hang on.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
People are trying to get a contact with you because apparently there was a meeting at 2 o'clock that you might want to be a part of.
Yeah, I had a feeling that might be the case. All right, thank you.
Sorry,
I'll I just seen Tracy. Yeah, I know we're gonna wind this one up. So yeah. Sorry, Robin. We're gonna have to wind this up because things are happening. Look, this has been fail of the week. I've got to get stuff going. I'm confused. Amendments passed, but Mark Butler's fail. More info, please, Robin. We'll have to come back. Maybe Robin can go live and continue explaining that one if she's up for it. I am being summoned because there's shit hitting the fan here in Townsville. So it looks like the most popular vote at the moment was the Abrams tanks. So I think we'll just give it to the Abrams tanks. America has done a bloody good job. Stay bold, guys. Elbow sleazy as always. Oh, well, he puts him into a bloody contender. I think we were going for an equal 30, equal fail for Elbow and the Abrams tanks, because Elbow is apparently about as effective as an Abrams tank. So there we go. Yep. Cool. Alrighty then. Thank you all very much, guys. Another vote for Abrams tanks. Looks like Abrams tanks are winning. Look, this has been fail of the week. Thank you very much for watching. I am being summoned, and since I made it, I better play it.
Fail of the week.
Fail of the week, Abrams tanks. Well done, America, and your war machine for keeping the wars going with military shit that doesn't work well. Good job, guys. Try to go live again shortly. All right, so Robin's going to continue on for this one because I was about to say, hey, Robin, why don't you pop on? Then it looks like I'm running out of time, so I'll leave it to you. We're going to transfer from North Queensland over to WA, and we'll see how what happens next. I will be back at 5:30 with some more council information. Talk to you soon. Have a good one, guys. And as always, be the best version of yourself you can be, because that's the only way we're going to get through this shit. So, till next time, same bat channel.